Welcome back to Inside Devils. Now time for some transfer news. And for that, we have to welcome in Mr. Ben Jacobs. How you doing, Ben? Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. How are you doing?
Not great. Not great as a United fan, to be honest. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Great in life, but as a Man United fan, not too great. But listen, let's get straight into this. You are joining us because there is some news about Geovany Quenda of Sport in Lisbon. What is it?
Yeah, Manchester United are progressing with this deal. He's a young 17-year-old. He can play right winger or right wing back. And towards the end of the winter window, they first made an approach. Nothing was ever going to be possible mid-season. So now Manchester United are working towards the summer. And in an ideal world, they'd like to pre-agree something because they know that this is going to be a player who is heavily in demand. And the fact that both Ruben Amorim and also Hugo Viana have both left Sporting suddenly presents an opportunity, I think, where the player's head has also been turned and he's looking to make a move to the Premier League. He is keen specifically on Manchester United. We've not had any kind of approach yet from Manchester City. Remember, Viana's kind of doing an acclimatisation period, but he doesn't formally start as City's new sporting director until the summer. And what we're seeing here is a new approach from Manchester United, quite similar, I think, to the one taken with Patrick Dorgu, where Lecce said 40 million euros or more. Manchester United stuck to their position. They got him for 30 million euros as the initial fee, plus some add-ons. And that felt like a very good deal. No Manchester United tax. And right now, it's a similar story where the player has agreed verbally personal terms, is waiting to see whether the clubs pre-agree or wait until the summer. And the price that Manchester United are looking at is 40 million euros. Sporting want a minimum of 60 million euros. There's a release clause at 100 million euros. So if Manchester United can get this one done south of 60 million, not only a good signing for the now and for the future and a player that Ruben Amorim knows really well, but also potentially another deal that they can hopefully get without being forced, as they did, for example, with Rasmus Højlund, to pay more than they ideally want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Manchester United surely need to avoid reciprocating the sins of the past, as it were. In terms of this deal, you mentioned there that personal terms have been agreed with Quenda then. So from the player point of view, he wants to move. From the club point of view at United, they have been speaking and Sporting are aware of this. It's just a case of the fee between the two clubs needs to be agreed.
Yeah, the fee and also the structure of a deal, including things like bonuses and how many payments you're going to make and all of these other things that are really important. Whenever there's a release clause, it can either be at market value, in which case you might choose to match it, or it can be set at a more astronomical number to ward off the market. And Sporting have very much done that in this particular case, because when he signed a new deal, the release clause went up to 100 million euros. But it reminds me of Victor Gyökeres, who's also got 100 million euros release clause and will be available in the market for something in the region of 70 million euros. And once again, Sporting are not pointing towards the release clause number, but they do want about 20 million more than Manchester United value the player at. And obviously, when you think about the summer, Manchester United are going to be relatively tight regarding PSR, especially if going into the next financial year, they don't have any Champions League football or maybe even any form of European football at all. And if that's the case, where are they going to put their budget? And I think if you look at this as an isolated deal, fans can be very excited. He's quick, he's intelligent, he's got good movement off the ball. He can play deeper as a right wing back, right winger. There's some goals output that will improve with age. He's very creative and intuitive. And Ruben Amorim will value that kind of player in a system that he will feel Quenda can work very comfortably within, because he's ultimately played under the manager and in it before. But then if you think about the bigger picture of the summer, and Manchester United haven't got a series of 40 million euros to spend, the only question is, do you put this outlay on a teenager, or do you try for something more established and in that number 9 role, and is that where you have to put your money? And this is why I think Manchester United, as much as they want the player, will not pay significantly above the odds for this kind of deal, like I said before, as they did with Rasmus Højlund, because they know that there's going to be parts where if they can save on this deal, they can put it towards another budget for likely a more established player, and it is almost certainly going to be in that number 9 role. And then we have to understand whether, if Eriksen and or Casemiro leaves, you need a midfielder. If Harry Maguire was to go, Lindelof expected to leave, you might need another central defender as well. Bayern maybe still wants minutes. You might need a number 2 goalkeeper. So Manchester United are going to have to do their business not as just singular deals, even if they make sense. They're going to have to think about that collective budget because finances are tight.
Is Ruben Amorim the ace card, Ben, here in this Quenda deal in terms of him wanting to come to the club? Look, Manchester United, again, potentially very, let's be honest, a large chance probably won't be in Europe unless they win the Europa League or Champions League. They won't be in it. Is he the key there, or could something still happen between now and the end of the season where the player could even change his mind, or has he got his heart set on Manchester United regardless?
Well, I think the player wants Premier League and is very keen on Manchester United and linking up with a manager that he knows well. So in that respect, Amorim is the ace. But we do have to note, we don't know where Manchester United are going to be come the end of the season. And in addition to that, Ruben Amorim is not like Erik ten Hag in the sense Ten Hag had a veto. So if Ten Hag put a target forwards and wanted him, then the recruitment team would work to deliver. And if Ten Hag was a roadblock, there was nothing the wider recruitment team could do. Ruben Amorim has autonomy, as he showed with the Marcus Rashford situation, on the training field and on the football field, but not within this recruitment model. So it really needs 3 ticks at the moment. Ruben Amorim, Jason Wilcox and Christopher Vivell, who's expected to stay at the football club on a longer-term deal and has impressed so far since he's been at Manchester United. And as far as I'm aware, Wilcox and Vivell have got buy-in. But the other thing about this summer, away from this particular signing, is Jim Ratcliffe's strategy is to buy young, to find homegrown players and to raise the value of those coming through. So a little bit like Chelsea are trying to do, you dine off your successes because you get them early on a lower wage for a lower fee. They break through, they do well. Everyone gets excited about those kind of players. If they don't succeed, even if they're still very good footballers, you've hopefully raised their value. And then if you move them on, you're in a situation where you're not losing money. And this has been the problem for Manchester United with some of the outgoings that have been discussed over the last kind of 12 months or so. Your Casemiros, your Antonys, they're very difficult sometimes to make a book profit on or break even. And therefore, it's more preferable to loan them away, take the loan fee, get the wages off the books, hope their value raises, and then reassess. Whereas if Manchester United are thinking about PSR, the way they can navigate that is finding younger players, cheaper players with high ceilings for the now and for the present. And Quenda definitely falls into that category. And on top of that, if they have the ability to do so, they can get some of these big wages off the books, maybe Casemiro, and then within PSR, they'll have a bit more budget to work with, which might mean 2 or 3 signings that have higher valuations can still come in this summer.
Ben, final one before we let you go. For you, how likely is it then that this deal gets done? Clearly, there's a willingness for the player to join. He's clearly very high on Ruben Amorim's list. To bring in. It looks like he's at the top. There's an agreement between the player and the club, but not between the 2 clubs. How likely is this deal to get done for you?
Yeah, I think Manchester United are optimistic. Fans may have to be patient because, of course, Sporting don't need to drop any of their demands. In fact, they could do the opposite, point to the release clause, and then Manchester United might back off for a little bit. So you only really escalate it now if you fear there's another suitor doing the same thing. And I'm not aware that anyone else is in these kind of advanced talks with Sporting at the moment. So if it stays as is, you'd expect Sporting to stick to their valuation, and maybe Manchester United have to wait a few months or even just pick it up when the window's open, as opposed to trying to pre-agree it. If another suitor comes in, it's a different story. There's more urgency. There's a bit of a bidding war. But then, of course, Manchester United might need to go higher than that 40 million euros. So I think in terms of optimism, things are positive as far as Manchester United see it because they've got the buy-in, but it's equally as optimistic to think that they're going to get this kind of talented player at 40 million euros. So I think they're going to have to go up in their valuation to closer to 50, if not 55, with add-ons included. And if they're prepared to go that high, there's a very realistic chance that they either pre-agree the player or land him in the summer, because most importantly, as you rightly say, Quenda is very keen on Manchester United, so is now just waiting to see whether the clubs can reach an agreement.
Ben, thank you for enlightening us with that. Fingers crossed this deal gets over the line, as Manchester United fans would be very excited to see him arrive at Old Trafford.